Good morning, everybody. Kris Gethin here. This is the Knowledge and Mileage podcast. If you hear a little bit of noise in the background, it's because I'm recording this one from my kitchen and I've got the dishwasher going in the background because this is the only way I can truly multitask, and that's by having something else do another task. I cannot do both. So that's my form of multitasking. But anyway, guys, appreciate you listening to the podcast, giving me your reviews, sending me direct messages, commenting, sending me videos of you listening to the podcast. It's really, really awesome. So please do leave a review. You can leave it on iTunes. Of course, we are on all other channels like the YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, etc., etc. And that's how we keep the lights on, your reviews. That's how we get found. So I'm not marketing this bad boy. I go by word of mouth. So if you could tell a friend, if you like this podcast, badass. But I've got to earn that review. So anyway, news and updates. So as you may or may not know, I have my health and fitness retreat coming up October 9th to the 13th in beautiful Sun Valley, Idaho. I absolutely love this place. It is my favorite place in the world. So what you're going to get in this retreat, I'll be covering biohacking, bodybuilding, hybrid athleticism, nutrition, training, anti-aging, absolutely everything. We're going to start the day off with my guided meditation, some easy yoga, then we're going to get into the tough day. So I got to warm you up before I destroy you. But there's going to be 6 educational seminars on bodybuilding, health and fitness, biohacking, and intermittent fasting, and keto dieting, and everything. You're going to get all of your meals included, provided by the Limelight Hotel and Nutrition Solutions. And obviously your accommodation is at the beautiful Limelight Hotel, and we will be training at the Zenergy Health Club and Spa, and you'll have full access to that place during the entire retreat. So you can go in there, have any of the spa services. You will get a free complimentary 80-minute spa service. So that could be a spa, a massage, a sports massage, whatever you want. We'll also be doing hiking and guided hiking and mountain biking, etc. It's going to be flat out. It's going to be friggin' awesome. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. And one of the main sponsors of this podcast is providing all of us with the coffee, the mycotoxin-free coffee, and the creamers, and that is Laird's. So Laird's is a creamer and coffee that I've been using for several years now. If you follow my Insta stories, you'd see. And I, in front of me right today, have the pumpkin spice superfood creamer. So I'm getting an early knock on Halloween, and I had it this morning. It is pretty badass. I love that creamer. So I take that pretty much everywhere I go. I use the decaffeinated coffee probably more than anything because it is Swiss filtered. And I had Laird on the show to go through his health and fitness regime and how he includes the coffee and the creamer in his program. I'm about to fly to Seattle today, so I have my creamer packed with me and my InstaFuel. So InstaFuel is like an instant coffee from those guys, and that is pretty badass as well. But I only use that mostly if I'm camping or traveling or anything like that. Speaking of travel, now a lot of the time when I am traveling, I am not exposed to the beautiful sunlight that we should have every day for our vitamin D production, for that calcium absorption, etc. And obviously to get that restorative red light that we need. So what I usually do is take my Joovv Go. So Joovv has an infrared, near infrared and far infrared light spectrum that is fantastic. So that is basically my replacement for the sunlight when I cannot get it. So when I do so, I go for the Joovv panel. I do have a panel at home that I have next to my my desktop treadmill that I utilize, which is absolutely phenomenal. And I have a large panel there, and I'll usually put it on my front and on my side or on my back for just like 10 minutes. That is all you need, okay? And then when I'm traveling, I'll use the Joovv Go. And it helps enhance my sleep. It helps with my faster recovery. I also found that it has helped me a little bit with the reduction of inflammation. But more than anything, I just use it to have that restorative red light that I need, especially when I cannot get the sun. Obviously, my biohacks come in when I cannot go for that low-hanging fruit. But anyway, let's get straight into today's show, okay, where I'm going to talk to you a little bit about ketogenic diets. Now, I know the keto diet is definitely a buzzword today. Everybody talks about keto. And when I went to India recently, everyone was asking me questions about the ketogenic diet. So, and unfortunately, a lot of them were doing the keto diet completely wrong. That they justify the keto diet as a means to get in any type of fat. That could be pork scratchings, it could be full fat bacon, it could be ghee, it could be lard, and all this stuff, which is okay. That could be a keto diet, but it isn't what I'd consider a healthy keto diet. Now, I did a keto diet last year for about 8 months, and a few months earlier this year. And I followed a different approach to this traditional keto diet, if there is a traditional version of it. I actually followed a cyclical keto diet. Now, some people will go keto for a week or two, maybe longer, and then you come out of ketosis by having a higher carb day. I didn't necessarily do that. The majority of the time, I actually knocked myself out of ketosis in the evening. So I would combine intermittent fasting with the ketogenic diet. I found I got into ketosis much quicker in doing so. So if I knocked myself out of ketosis in the evening, by morning time, I was pretty much getting back into ketosis, and obviously I would fast until like 2 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I was definitely getting into ketosis throughout the day. Hold on while I have a sip of this beautiful Laird's. 1 second. Sometimes I talk so quick, I get dry in the throat as well. But anyway, so this is generally what I would follow. I would follow like a higher fat diet, but those fats were coming from healthy versions of fat to ensure that I had plenty of EPA and DHA. I also had krill oil with my xanthanin, but I would have like your extra virgin olive oil. So the olive oil that I'd choose was a company called Grove and Vine. The reason being is that this gentleman who owns the company, and I've had a couple of discussions with him, he is an extra virgin olive oil connoisseur, and he has been for many, many years. And he will harvest that extra virgin olive oil from like the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, dependent on the time of the year for the freshest harvest. And then he will actually send it to your door. And I'm not affiliated with this company, by the way. And you'll have it on your table within like 3 months of it being harvested. So it's very fresh. Hasn't been on the shelves going rancid for months or years. And it definitely isn't a blend. Sometimes you'll get blends, and obviously you want to stay away from a lot of the vegetable oils and your soybean oil and all these other bean oils that they have, and vegetable oils on the shelves that they sell that are very pro-inflammatory. So I'd have that as my form of fat. I'd obviously use avocado. I love avocado, particularly on salads. I'd have nuts and seeds. So I'd usually go for cashews or almonds or walnuts and various types of seeds. And then I'd have egg yolks, as opposed to the bodybuilding style of just going for egg whites and a couple of yolks. I'd just have all the whole egg the entire time. I'd have MCT oils. Now, part of the MCT is the caprylic acid, the C8. So you have your all 4 MCTs, your C6, your C8, your C10, and C12. And C8 will get you into ketosis very, very quickly. So I was making sure that I had a C8 MCT that I was taking as well. That's a medium chain triglyceride. It's a very easily burnt fat by the body. And then the forms of protein, your typical bodybuilding proteins, I found it very hard to go for full fatty pieces of meat. So I'd have my lean meat, maybe my sirloin steak. I'd go for my turkey and chicken breast, or sometimes ground chicken and turkey. And then one thing that I definitely did on this keto diet that not everybody does, I'd make sure that I'd get plenty of plant matter. I'd get plenty of fiber. Very easy. Quite often I notice a lot of people go into a ketogenic diet and they'll focus on fats and some protein, but not much plant matter. So I want to make sure that I get plenty of fiber in my system, because regardless of the diet, there's something that should all be in common, whether it be a vegan diet, a vegetarian diet, carnivore diet, paleo, keto, whatever. It should all be healthy. That is one thing that they should all have in common. There should be health aspects. I guess that's a one thing that I don't like too much about the carnivore diet. I do like that it's nose to tail, so you get a lot of the nutritional benefits that you generally wouldn't get eating just like the steak or the chicken or anything like that. You do get a lot of the collagen and a lot of the other products within that that nose to tail way of eating that you wouldn't generally get. But I like to have my fiber, I like to have my plant matter, I like to have my antioxidants. So when I would knock myself out of ketosis in the evening, now keep in mind I've broken my fast usually around 4 o'clock, I'd have 2 to 3 meals, and then before bed, or in the evening meal, I should say, I'd have my carbohydrates. Now, that could be a little bit of sweet potato, or something like that. Sometimes I'd have my protein and oats, my isolate protein and oats. But I'd make sure that I'd have a lot of fruits in there as well, usually coming from the form of berries like blueberries, strawberries, unsweetened cranberries, just so I could get plenty of antioxidants into my system without too much sugar. And that served me really, really well. Now, I used that for quite a different goal to what people would generally use it for. Some people use it for muscle building or fat loss. My particular goal last year was to lose as much muscle as possible. However, I still wanted brain fuel and energy, and I wanted to focus on my health and my anti-inflammatory responders. So that's why I followed that diet, and I found it very easy. When I saturated my brain, as it were, in fats for a couple of weeks, I found that it rid myself of a lot of the carb cravings that I would generally get, particularly like sweeter cravings. I found as I got a little bit older, for some reason, I craved sweets a little more. I never used to. But after a couple of weeks on a keto diet, it really worked for me. I did the same thing with my dad. And my father was diagnosed with kidney cancer earlier in the year when we came back from India. Something had been bothering him for quite a while, but being more of a old school, stubborn, tougher guy, he never told anybody, never complained about it, or anything like that, which I kind of appreciate. But sometimes you can be too tough, and when you're too tough, you ignore the symptoms and just think, I'm just being a pussy, shut the fuck up, I'm just going to carry on with this and keep driving forward like I'm a warrior. But unfortunately, those symptoms are telling you something and you need to listen. And he didn't listen until he had to listen. And then when he found out that he had to have one of his kidneys removed, and they had to, man, I tell you what, the scar that he's got across his midsection is unreal. Unreal. It must be like probably about 20 inches long across his waist, around his waist. It's insane. And they had to remove his intestines, take the kidney out, etc. But anyway, the cancer is gone, and since then I've got him on a keto diet. Because obviously cancer can be fed by carbohydrates, by sugars, so that has been removed from the diet and replaced with fats. Now, protein isn't too high. Protein is around 25%. The rest coming from fats and fiber. Hey everybody, I am just interrupting this show to tell you about Joovv. That's Joovv. Okay, Joovv. So this is a red light infrared panel that I have actually been utilizing, or they've got panels. They've got actually like a jigsaw of panels, so you can put together quite an impressive set. I have the large panels at home, and I have the Joovv Go that I utilize when I'm traveling. So, red light therapy has been shown to increase your natural collagen production for healthier, younger looking skin. Who doesn't want that? So in addition to helping to make more energy, improving your circulation, reducing inflammation, red light therapy has been shown to boost your own collagen production for healthier, younger skin. So collagen is the most abundant protein in our bodies, as you may know, and it's critical for skin and joint and bone health. And collagen literally does hold us together, and the more that you can produce naturally, this is going to be the better for your joints and your skin and general appearance. So many people take collagen supplements or use cream, and you can also obviously promote the real thing, your own body's stimulation of collagen for younger looking skin and faster healing. And especially if you're exposed to a lot of the free radicals that we are today, then the Joovv can actually help with that collagen production. So check out the link in my show notes, guys, because Joovv do have a special. With any purchase, you will get a free gift. That can't be bad. Anyway, guys, let's get back to the show, and I'll speak to y'all on the other side. A lot of people have been asking me about the ketogenic diet. So what I did earlier this year on my personal platform, which is healthkick.com, that's healthkik.com, and I can put the link in the show notes. I published several guides. So I published my intermittent fasting guide, which is a controlled intermittent fasting guide, fat loss guide, muscle guide, and muscle building guide, and a ketogenic guide. So I wanted to make sure that this was very descriptive for people who wanted to either burn fat or build muscle, etc. But this one's specifically for fat loss, the one that I have in front of me, and the table of contents that I had in this or have in this is 5 reasons a ketogenic diet works, 5 ways to enhance results with a ketogenic diet, creating your ketogenic diet, because it has to be specific for your needs, whether you're getting ready for a half marathon or a bodybuilding show, and then a food list, and then the facts about ketogenic diets. Because like I said, there are so many myths and misconceptions. I found that a lot of people have been doing it wrong. And the ketogenic diet has been around for decades, and its popularity is skyrocketed crazy in recent years. And it's not a fad. It's not going away, because people are getting great results. And I know people that have followed this for like 20 years, much like my good friend Sean Wells. He had a benign tumor, and the way that he said that he has found he's been able to control that is by a ketogenic diet. So obviously it's high in fat, moderate protein, and low in carbohydrates, which elevates your ketones in your bloodstream, which makes you fat adaptive. And the goal here is to become hyper efficient at using fat for fuel. And it can take a while for you to become fat adaptive. Sometimes some people only a couple of days, other people as long as a couple of weeks. So, this Health Kick Keto Guide basically enables you to utilize the ketogenic diet in the most effective way, specifically for fat loss. Okay, so that's exactly why it was designed for the fat loss in this one. And based on this one's popularity so far, I'll be doing the same for muscle building purposes as well. Because a lot of people have followed this, they've enjoyed it, they've liked it, they've got great results on it, but now they want to try muscle building. So that's going to be the next one that I'm writing. And, the most obvious benefit of the keto diet is using fat for fuel. And obviously, if we're holding body fat on our frames but our bodies become very accustomed to utilizing sugars or carbohydrates, glycogen as our energy source, it's not going to tap into our fat stores as efficiently as we'd like it. And like if you've become quite insulin resistant because you've spent so many years eating carbohydrates, and maybe excessive amounts of it, this is a great way that I have found is to improve your insulin sensitivity. So it may not be something that you possibly want to follow for a long time, but I definitely suggest everybody try it for a little while just to improve your insulin sensitivity so you can burn fat better whether you follow a keto diet or you go back onto carbohydrates. I hope that makes sense. But, people ask, how does it happen? Well, in the absence of glucose in the blood, by dramatically limiting your carbohydrate, more ketones are produced as a means of supplying fuel to the brain and body. So a lot of people, when they follow the ketogenic diet and when they get through the first process of it, some call it the keto flu, and you become more fat adaptive, you create ketones in the absence of these carbohydrates, and your body must burn fat, which is why it is a very effective strategy for reducing body fat. But not only that, I found that I got a lot of mental clarity. Sometimes when you have an excessive amount of carbohydrates, or carbohydrates anyway, especially in the morning, you can feel a little bit sluggish, particularly in the brain, have a bit of a brain fog, and it takes a while for you to set yourself up for the day. Now, I didn't find that at all. Now, keep in mind, I would follow a controlled fasting cycle. So I wasn't just like not eating in the morning. Well, I wasn't eating. However, I would have some MCTs in my coffee in the morning. It wasn't a complete water fast. I still had the coffee in there. And I just found that it was, gave me brain fuel. And, Dave Asprey of Bulletproof has a product called Brain Octane, which is exactly that. It is the caprylic acid, which is the C8 that gets you into ketosis very, very quickly. And it can, like I said, it can typically take like 48, 72 hours to induce a state of ketosis, provided the correct diet has been followed. And I've found if you are an active individual, you'll get into ketosis even quicker. Like I found, even though like I'd get out of ketosis, like sometimes on a weekend or in the evenings, I'd get into ketosis very, very quickly because I was being very active. So I'd go through any glycogen that was stored and I'd get straight into my ketones, Sorry, I'm going to have another drink of my coffee here. So in regards to the cravings, so strangely, with almost no carbohydrates, you may expect your hunger and cravings to be an issue, and it may be for the first week or 10 days, but the keto diet really does help reduce them. Now, once the mechanics are explored in greater detail, the logic becomes clear. The keto diet is effective at reducing the cravings because it creates a very predictable and even blood sugar trend throughout the day. And the fats are very satisfying because they digest much slower than carbohydrates. And remember, there is 9 calories per gram, not the traditional 4 that you get from your protein or carbohydrates. So that does satisfy you a little longer. Your blood sugar levels remain much more stable around the clock because your body is always being drip fed this fuel from fat and your body fat stores, as well as your dietary fat, obviously. And therefore, there are far less aggressive peaks and drops, which you'd associate more with a typical carbohydrate diet. So you do not experience the same hunger as you would when you're following a ketogenic diet. So this makes it a very attractive dieting strategy for people who struggle with the adherence, because hunger leads them to temptation, cravings lead them to temptation, and they just end up cheating frequently. So many people who do transition into a keto diet like to sustain it as a lifestyle because they enjoy how they feel, and it becomes more effortless to live within a calorie deficit, especially if you're doing what I did and combined controlled intermittent fasting with it. And by the way, if you do like this episode, I can go into controlled intermittent fasting into a future episode, and I can talk about the guide that I have on healthkick.com in that regards as well. So with your heightened cognitive function, like the brain thrives off fat. You spend 5 minutes with somebody on a fat-free diet on a prolonged period of time, or someone getting ready for a bodybuilding show, you'll notice that his or her cognition will be operating at suboptimal levels. So those who follow a ketogenic diet, though, often mention that their brain feels supercharged, making it perfect for people who want to get lean, yet dominate their professional life without the usual drawbacks of feeling constantly fatigued, And, you could possibly get improved cholesterol and triglyceride readings. This isn't for everybody. Remember, I'm not a doctor, so I have to be very clear. I'm not going to give any structural function claims here. So full disclaimer here. But although keto diets are very high in fat, people have found that their HDL and ADL cholesterol ratio improves, as does their circulating triglyceride levels. So this relies upon the fact that the fat that you're consuming is of high quality. So remember, it's not all your ghee and your bacon and your pork fat and all that sort of stuff. It's those healthy options that I mentioned earlier, such as your avocado, your nuts, your seeds, your extra virgin olive oil, your MCTs, etc., etc. So, there's an avocado. There are many ways to utilize a ketogenic diet. And from experience, I've found that to optimize this way of eating for great results are a cyclical way of doing it. But everybody's different. Some people follow it very, very strict. I do like to supplement with my omega-3s. I will make sure that I have, salmon. I'll have, the krill oil. I'll have sardines, etc. I do like sardines. A lot of people don't like them, but I actually like it. I'll make sure that I have my greens, my fiber, my antioxidants. I just found that is the healthier way of actually doing it. And, is it for bodybuilders? Well, there's a couple of bodybuilders out there that follow it with a lot of success. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to stand on the Olympia stage anytime soon by following this program, but what about endurance athletes as well? There's a lot of endurance athletes that follow this because let's say if you're an ultra marathon runner and you have to consistently top yourself up with gels and these sugary bars and a lot of high carb powders and stuff like that. Well, yeah, you will get the spike. Yeah, you will get the energy, but sometimes you can get that drop as well. And if you're running, it's very hard to take on fuel. If you're a triathlete and you're cycling, that's not as bad. But when it comes to running, especially if you're doing an ultra marathon or something like that, like what I have done, I find it would be easier to take in fats as that form of fuel. Now, everybody's different, but you just don't get those crashes and, you always run, pardon the pun, the risk of running into that wall, hitting that barrier, and that you can't get yourself out of. Once you've hit that wall, it is really hard to get back out in efficient time so you can be competitive in that race or even finish that race. So ketogenic diet does have a lot of benefits in various sports as well. So it's usually made up of like 70% fats, 25 protein, and like 5% carbs. I went a little bit higher on the protein and put in the carbs, like I said, in the evening before bed. And doing that as well, I found that it helped release serotonin to help me sleep better, because some people may not be able to sleep as well. Some people sleep better following a keto diet. There's various ways of doing it. There's various hacks that you can follow, and there's various ways of you there's various ways of putting together the program and, you know, having your shopping list intact. So that's why in this guide, I have absolutely everything. I tell you how to put together your ketogenic diet, what your shopping list should look like from your proteins, carbs, fats, etc. And, you know, like some facts like, should you do a ketogenic diet? How many complex carbs are you allowed? Do the calories still matter when you're on a ketogenic diet? And, you know, various hacks for you to follow as well. But anyway, make sure that you do give me a review on this. Let me know if you like this and if you'd like me to talk about the intermittent or the controlled intermittent style that I followed and the guide that I have in healthkick.com for all of our members, that is. But anyway, guys, thank you ever so much. I really appreciate you today. Have yourself an awesome week. And until next week, this is the Knowledge and Mileage Podcast. My name is Kris Gethin, and we are out.